Shame and guilt. The more light I find, the longer these shadows grow. If shame is proof I am bad, why do I feel most when I'm trying to be good? If guilt is proof I am good, why does it show up the second I choose myself? Some days my heart pounds, my eyes won't stop crying, and my head feels heavy. Like every thought is screaming, you are a bad person. Why does choosing myself feel like betraying every cell in my body? Shame, guilt, my longest relationships, the only friends that never left. Hi everyone, this is your host Devi Mago, and this is another episode of Slightly Healed, Mostly Unhinged. Did you guys watch that movie K-pop Demon Hunters? We watched it this weekend with the kids, and I felt like that movie has been written for me, about me. The character Rumi just spoke so much to my soul, and I never realized how much shame and guilt comes up again and again every day in our lives. So that's what we are going to talk about today, and how we can change that perspective into a compass for our healing journey. So, why does shame and guilt feel so heavy on our hearts? I'm going to tell you that shame and guilt are just our body's indicator that we are doing something different. Now, where people pleasing start as parent pleasing in our childhoods, right? So, what happens in that again and again, especially for women, especially for girls growing up, we are told that we need to be humble, we need to be kind, we need to be sweet, and we need to be a yes person. If we do not share our toys, we are just bad, a bad kid. If we ask a why question, that why is this rule, then we are a bad kid. And especially for women, there are so many more boundaries, there are so many more rules that makes us be small, makes us feel like we need to inherently please people to get love, to get attention, to get it's everything is conditional. So when you keep putting people above your happiness, above your needs, the moment you start choosing yourself, the moment you start doing things and putting power in your voice and sharing things with the honest truth, it feels like I am disappointing so many people. I am disappointing my family. I am disappointing my friends. I am disappointing my work colleagues. I am disappointing my past self. And that shame and that guilt keeps coming up. I'm here to tell you that we can change that perspective. We can say, okay, that shame that is coming up whenever we do not reply to that text immediately. That shame and that guilt comes up whenever we are trying to rest and it feels like this is unnatural. Resting is so like unnatural. The guilt that comes when you put a boundary with your toxic family members, or just like day to day lives, that when we start putting us in front of other people's needs. I would say we need to change that perspective and say that that is our healing moral compass. That is just us, our body being uncomfortable in a new pattern. Because we are so used to putting everyone in above us, when we finally start putting ourselves and our needs above anyone, it all keeps that shame and guilt keeps coming up. It's so heavy in our hearts because we are finally creating a new pattern of us choosing ourselves. So whenever you feel shame, whenever you feel guilt in your head, think good. Great. Amazing. That means I'm breaking patterns. That means my body, my mind, my subconscious is uncomfortable and is creating a new pattern. Another thing that I do, which really helps me, is figuring out, is this a conditioned guilt? A guilt that was conditioned to me as a child growing up? Or is it an actual real guilt that is a human emotion that comes when you intentionally hurt someone? And 99% of the time, it's a conditioned guilt. So, whenever there is a conditioned guilt, I do not have to take any action. I just need to switch that voice and say, Divi, good. Good. That means you're creating a new pattern in your brain. That means you're breaking that Stockholm syndrome that you have with your family, with your people pleasing tendencies. You're finally breaking it little by little. So, whenever that thought comes in your mind, whenever that shame and that guilt comes that you did not go to that family dinner, or you did not invite your parents for that holidays, or did not go see your parents for the holidays, or you finally said no to that toxic friend group that only texts you when they need to and they do not actually care about you, it's not, it's guilt. It's fine. It's okay to have guilt. That guilt, the conditioning of people pleasing took us decades when we were growing up. So that conditioning, for us to break that, it might take years as well. For some people, it's like a switch. They switch into that identity where they don't give a flying F about anyone or anyone else, and they keep working on themselves, and they're really motivated and they're really disciplined, and there's no shame, no guilt, nothing like that comes up. But if you are one of those people like me, that when you are closing the kitchen at night or taking a shower and there's nothing else going on, your mind is blank, and then you go through the things that you did today and what things you did good, what things you might not have done as good, and then you replay those thoughts, those scenarios, and the shame and guilt comes back, and you think of how all the things you did today that disappointed your friends, you disappointed your partner, disappointed your parents, disappointed your family. Separate it if this is a conditioned guilt or an actual guilt. If it's an actual guilt and you need to apologize or take any action, that's your actual subconscious saying something to you, please do so. Still be a good human being. But if it's a conditioned guilt, which is coming from our people-pleasing tendencies, just say in your subconscious, good. Say good. Good job. Good job. You stood up for yourself. How does it feel? Yes, it's shame and guilt, but does it feel a little bit powerful? Does it feel a little bit happiness? Does it feel that you're finally in control of your life? And if all those things come in your mind, then that's great. Put more focus on the positive energies instead of on the negative ones that are coming up. And you'll be all good. Always say guilt equals growth. Say it with me. That's kind of an affirmation. Guilt equals growth. Guilt means you are breaking patterns. Shame means you are finally saying your truth. And truth is bitter. Truth hurts. 99% of the people are not ready to face the truth. They're not ready to face the honest circumstances or how things actually were for any scenario. They have these made up versions in their mind which their subconscious might have made up just so that they can rest easy at night. So guilt equals growth. Shame equals honest conversations. Just like the movie that we watched with our kids this weekend, K-pop Demon Hunters, Rumi felt this intense shame and guilt about who she was. And that chipped away her voice little by little. So do not give power to shame. Do not give power to guilt. Do not let these feelings backslide you. These are talk to them as your friends, accomplices, work colleagues. Shame and guilt are your work colleagues. They come up whenever you start a new project. They come up whenever you get a new promotion. And you tilt your head to them, you tilt your hat to them, and you say, great, that means I'm doing something right. That means I'm doing some generational patterns. That means I am doing something for myself. I'm creating new patterns in my brain. This is just guilt and shame is your body being uncomfortable, putting yourself first. Great. I'm okay keeping myself uncomfortable if that means I can finally put my people pleasing tendencies to rest. Saying no, putting boundaries will come, these feelings will come again and again. But now we know how we can turn guilt into pride, how we can get our power back. So that's the end of this episode. You keep doing you. You keep doing, you keep moving forward. You keep healing. And if you ever feel shame or guilt when you are just sharing your honest truth, when you're just putting yourself first instead of everyone else in this damn universe, do not focus a lot on these shame and guilt feelings. You are growing. These are just growing pains. One day when you say no to an event and the shame and guilt will not, and you will look around the room and you will not find shame and guilt. And then you will think, okay, great, I'm healed. All right. That's it for today's episode. We'll come back again next week. And this is your host, Devi Mago, signing off. Thank you.